Disguised as her sister's groom, she unexpectedly found a billionaire's incredible love. Claire wiped the tear from her cheek as she poured steaming coffee into yet another chipped mug, the aroma mingling with the faint scent of bacon still sizzling in the kitchen. She forced a smile at the regulars, their chatter filled with whispers of wedding plans and the whispered glories of wealth. Her sister Emma's upcoming wedding loomed like a shadow, crushing the dreams Claire barely dared to entertain. Emma was to marry Henry, the golden child of the richest family in town. While Claire struggled to make rent, her sister was securing her future with a gilded promise. The weight of her family's expectations bore down on her, a constant pressure in her chest that made even breathing feel laborious. It wasn't just the wedding that made Claire's stomach knot. It was the relentless reminders of her own shortcomings, a waitress in a small-town diner while Emma basked in the glow of financial security and social prestige. Doubts gnawed at her. Was her aspiration of becoming a fashion designer just a childish fantasy? All those designs she sketched on napkins during her shifts felt like whims, frivolous compared to the reality that glittered so brightly in front of her. With every sip the customers took, whispered encouragements and perfect dress choices swirled into her mind, drowning her in a sea of inadequacy. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the wedding day drew near, chaos erupted. Henry vanished. Claire's breath caught as Emma's face crumpled, fear replacing the excitement that once filled her eyes. In that moment, Claire's heart raced at a thought so wild, it sent her mind spinning. She could disguise herself as Emma's fiancé. The desperation was palpable. How far would she go to protect her sister's happiness? The answer was buried beneath layers of uncertainty. Claire stepped into a world of opulence and privilege, the superficial glitter stark against her simple diner life. She found herself struggling to mirror the radiant confidence expected of her, while inside she felt more like a fraud each moment. Yet it was amidst that forced facade she met Ethan, a reclusive billionaire who defied the perfect image she thought he would embody. Their conversations unveiled layers of vulnerability hidden beneath the suave exterior. She spun yarns about a love she didn't feel, while inside, Claire rediscovered the need for creativity and expression she had buried. The artistic longing bloomed, blooming like flowers in spring beneath the gray winter sky of expectation. As Claire relished these spontaneous moments with Ethan, a new kind of fear tightened its grip on her heart. The fear of losing herself completely in the role she had taken on. Could she navigate these tangled emotions, the weight of her family's honor against her pulsating wish for independence? The clock ticked down to the wedding, and with each passing second, the urgency mounted. The moment of truth threatened. Torn between the sister she loved and the man who awakened passion in her soul, Claire felt as if she stood at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into unknown depths. Just then, across the crowd, Ethan's gaze met hers, grounding her amidst the chaos, but with it came the unsettling reminder of everything that was at stake. The truth of her disguise could shatter both Emma's dreams and her burgeoning romance. The weight of the impending lie loomed heavy as Claire faced the reality that would soon demand her choice, and it echoed loudly in her heart. Would she choose safety or risk? Would she fight for the life she desired or let duty dictate her destiny? With her mind racing, she sensed the clock ticking down and the choice becoming inescapable. Claire's heart pounded as the magnitude of her decision settled over her like an unwelcome cloak. The lavish hall buzzed around her, a swirl of laughter and clinking glasses, but all she could hear was the thrum of her own uncertainty. Stripped of her waitress apron, she was draped in a tailored suit that fit her like armor, but deep down she quaked at the precariousness of her situation. Ethan's presence was a beacon, drawing her closer and yet pushing her further into her turmoil. The intensity of his gaze made her soul ache with the awareness of what lay beneath the surface. In moments of shared silence, Claire pondered whether their growing connection could withstand the deceit bubbling beneath her poised exterior. For months, she tucked her designs away, stifling the bright spark of creativity that fueled her dreams. Each sketch left unfinished, each idea silenced by self-doubt and expectations, now thundered in her mind like a relentless drum. If only she could merge the world she inhabited, the unpretentious diner life with the glamour of this elite society. Maybe then she could find her place. As she sidled up to the ornate bar, Claire glanced at her reflection in the polished surface. The polished facade smiled back, but her eyes betrayed the storm swirling within. Her own reflection sparked a realization. Wasn't this disguise an opportunity to reclaim her narrative, to rediscover who she was beyond familial obligation? Suddenly the thought struck her. What if she were not just Emma's stand-in, but a representation of all the aspirations she had buried? The confrontation ignited her resolve. The designs she longed to create were not just fabric and thread, but stories woven from her experiences, from longing and unexpectedly love. It was time to forge forward instead of retreating into the shadows of her sister's brilliance. Ethan approached, a warmth in his expression that soothed her racing mind. "Have you thought about what happens after the wedding?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. His question caught her off guard, prying open a box of emotions she had locked away. "What if I told you that I'm not so sure about the wedding or even the truth behind all this?" she replied, surprising herself with the boldness of her admission. He took a step closer, his attention unwavering, fueling the courage within her. "What if you used this moment to discover what you truly want? If you could explore anything, what would that be?" Claire rolled the question in her mind. It wasn't just about the wedding, it was about her life. It was about what it meant to be Claire, not only as the supportive sister, but a designer standing on her own. Ideas began to unfurl like petals opening under the sun. Her heart raced with the thrill of possibility, but the weight of her disguise pulled at her. Could she risk everything for the sake of a burgeoning passion? In that moment, the tension reached a fever pitch. The confrontation was imminent. Would she dare to speak what had long been silenced by fear? The clamor of the crowd faded away as Claire squared her shoulders, taking a calculated breath ready to face her truth. The heat of uncertainty swirled in her chest, but something new emerged. Was it hope or defiance? Suddenly, she felt alive. The night stretched ahead of her with infinite potential, the choice she would make looming like a starry void. "Ethan," she blurted, urgency propelling her words. "I need to tell you something important." Before she could unveil the enormity of her dilemma, a figure moved into her peripheral vision, drawing attention away. It was Emma, frantic, eyes wide with unease. Just as Claire prepared to leap into the unknown, the stakes shifted again, a twist she hadn't foreseen. The question pulsed in her mind. Could she truly balance her sister's happiness with her own desires? As doubt shrouded her resolve, the room trembled with undisclosed secrets. One thing was certain, the moment of revelation for Claire was closing in. Claire's breath hitched as Emma's figure drew nearer, the urgency in her sister's demeanor a tangible force that pulled at Claire's heartstrings and encased her in a visceral conflict. The weight of her sister's concern settled in the pit of her stomach, a reminder of the bond they shared, yet contrasting fiercely with the rebellion that simmered within her soul. "Claire!" Emma exclaimed, panic etched on her face. "You have to help me. There's something wrong with the dress, it won't close, and I need you—" Before Emma could finish her thought, Claire felt the ground beneath her shift. The resolve she'd almost summoned flickered like a candle in a draught. This was the moment. She could either continue playing the role of a shadow, supporting her sister in a wedding meant for someone else, or step into the light and reclaim her dreams. But standing there, poised between two worlds, she felt tethered to a sense of duty almost as strong as her desire to chase her own ambitions. "Emma," Claire started, her voice steadier than she felt. "Before we do anything else, can we talk about this?" She gestured subtly away from the crowd, a quiet invitation into a private moment. Emma's brow furrowed, but concern was quickly replaced with the urgency of her needs. "Not now, this is too important, you don't understand," she insisted, her voice low yet frantic. The tumult of emotions clashed within Claire. Her sister's desperation was a call to selflessness, yet on the precipice of her own awakening, Claire resisted. "But what I need is just as important. I can't go on lying to everyone, not you, not especially not Ethan," she pressed, daring to voice the feelings she had held captive for so long. Emma waved her hands in exasperation, exuding the energy of a storm. "This isn't the time for your feelings, Claire. What if you ruin everything for me? What if Ethan finds out?" Her words cut deep, reverberating in the corners of Claire's mind where her own doubt still lurked. Faced with the familiar weight of familial obligation, she recognized a painful truth. Helping Emma often meant sacrificing her own desires. "No," Claire said more decisively. "What if the real disaster is to stay hidden in your shadow?" Emma's expression flickered, confusion intertwining with frustration. The voices around them grew distant, the celebration fading into a hushed backdrop as their familial bond hung in the air between them, fragile yet charged. In that charged moment, Claire's gaze caught Ethan's across the room, his attention drawn away from the wedding chaos and landing squarely on her. The connection they shared exploded in her chest, pulling at the threads of her authenticity and what lay beneath. Did he see her? Truly see her? Or was she merely a reflection of Emma's dreams? "Look, Emma," Claire continued, her voice steadying with newfound clarity. "I love you and I'll always support you. But I need to find out who I am outside your expectations. It's suffocating, this life I'm living, and I can't pretend anymore." Silence enveloped them, as the world around clamored on, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring in the hearts of the sisters. Emma's eyes softened, a question forming as she took a step back, processing Claire's words. "What are you saying? You would abandon me?" Emma's gaze fell, revealing the vulnerable layer of their sisterhood. Claire's heart cracked just a bit. Abandonment was not what she sought. She wanted liberation, the kind that would allow them both to flourish in their own rights rather than through one another. "I'm not abandoning you. I'm trying to be whole for both of us," she whispered, each syllable laden with both fear and determination. The tension between them coiled tighter, the impending confrontation creating a palpable connection. Claire could feel the sincerity surfacing, the flicker of her sister's fear mingling with her own courage, leading them both to an uncertain crossroads. As the two stood on the edge of a new understanding, something in her gut twisted again, a stronger impulse igniting. If she could step out of Emma's shadow, maybe she could embrace the very dreams they'd long put aside. But would Emma realize that their paths didn't have to diverge? Or would her fear of losing her sibling hold Claire captive still? The push and pull of their realities pressed against them, leaving a haunting question to hang in the air. Was love enough to bind them, or would their truths tear them apart? The moment of revelation approached, but which revelation would it be? One that brought them closer or one that irrevocably changed everything? The weight of Claire's words lingered in the air, an invisible thread connecting her with Emma yet pulling her away from the expected path. Uncertainty coursed through her veins, driving the longing for self-realization into stark focus. It was as though a tide had turned within her, one that might just sweep her away into uncharted waters. The risk was palpable, yet the potential for discovery was too enticing to ignore. Ethan's steady gaze remained fixed on her, his expression open yet unreadable. It was an invitation, a challenge. Could she express the truth of who she was amid the whirlwind surrounding them? She felt the pull of the room, a kaleidoscope of emotions, vibrancy met with chaos. But here in her sister's shadow she was a mere specter, losing herself within the roles that defined them. "Claire," Emma's voice trembled, slicing through Claire's chaotic thoughts like a knife. "This isn't just about you. This is my wedding. Everything I've always dreamed of." Something stirred inside Claire, a deep-seated yearning for agency. "And what about my dreams, Emma? Do they matter?" The words fell from Claire's lips before she could catch them, an impulsive release of frustration and pain. Emma flinched, her concern replaced by the ghost of defiance. You think you're the only one with dreams? You've always been content to stand back. Why change now? In that moment, Claire felt as though she had been pierced by Emma's accusation, barbed and unforgiving. But beneath the layers of hurt, Claire began to recognize the truth. Fear had kept her in line, and this fear was a shackle she was ready to break. No, it's not that I was content to be in your shadow, I was just scared. Claire's voice softened, but the strength behind her assertion held presence. I felt it was safer that way, never stepping out to risk losing you or risking losing myself. But this feels like the moment when I need to fight for my own path. Emma softened, a flicker of understanding igniting in her eyes. And what if that path leads us apart? Then I'll have to trust that we can find our way back to each other, Claire replied, a small ember of confidence igniting in her heart. The tension eased slightly, the unyielding atmosphere becoming a little less volatile. Claire knew she was standing on the precipice of a monumental change, embracing the uncertainty, acknowledging the risks, yet finding the courage to take that first step forward. She was ready to define herself outside the confines of Emma's world. With resolve anchoring her, Claire turned her attention back to Ethan. She had seen him as a constant through her tumult, someone tied to her sister, but also an incredible force in his own right. She didn't need to fight for his attention. She simply needed to be authentic in front of him to express her real self without the suffocating pretense of expectation. Ethan, Claire began, taking a tentative step toward him. His expression shifted, intrigue and warmth radiating towards her. I don't want to hide anymore, not from you, not from anyone. What do you mean? His voice softened, drawing her in with curiosity. Every time I was around you, I felt like I was just Emma's sister, she confessed, feeling the weight of vulnerability flood through her. I don't want to be defined by her. I want to stand on my own, and I want you to see me for who I really am. There was a moment of silence, the crux of revelation hanging delicately between them. Claire's heart raced, both excited and fearful of what awaited her. Could she step into the possibility of being seen, not just as a sister, but as an individual worth knowing? As anticipation crackled in the air, Claire felt the gravitational pull of this new identity towards Ethan, and with that, a dawn of realization emerged. But at the same moment, a loud crash echoed from the assembly behind Emma, sending shockwaves through the gathering. Whispers cascaded into shouts as everyone turned to stare at the commotion. An opportunity for distraction, or perhaps confrontation, was at hand. Claire's stomach knotted. Would the disruption swallow the moment of truth she teetered on? Or was this a clarifying crisis that would determine her path forward? With breaths held and hearts racing, uncertainty loomed. Was this escalation a mere accident or a test of the foundations she was building anew? The crash reverberated through the atmosphere, an unwelcome intrusion into the fragile space Claire had begun to carve for herself. The chaotic murmurs that followed felt almost suffocating, drowning the potential momentum she had dared to summon. As heads twisted toward the source of the disturbance, Claire's heart quickened. Was this a chance for clarity, or yet another setback? Focus sharpened, and Claire's instinct clamored for action. The crowd's interest shifted to a figure who had stumbled, an usher, hastily trying to gather himself, but clearly adding to the drama with an awkward grin, struggling to keep composure amid the unexpected fiasco. A bemused glance from Ethan drew Claire's eyes back to him. He held her gaze, the warmth of curiosity replaced by concern. Maybe it wasn't just about her own impending revelations. The wedding itself was unfolding in real time, weaving a narrative far larger than personal stakes. It was similar, yet uniquely different. A dance of aspirations and interpersonal complexities, each person wrapped in their own ambitions. Distraction could become an opportunity for connection, or worse, an excuse to retreat. Claire? Ethan's voice anchored her attention once more. Are you all right? Yes, she replied weakly, still focusing on the usher's antics. But moments of honesty with Ethan had stirred something inside her, a cocktail of doubt and determination. Her voice, previously tentative, gained an edge. "Can we go outside? I need some fresh air." Without waiting for a response, Claire brushed past the gathering chaos, her principles driving her. The outside air rushed to greet her, carrying the distant strains of wedding music intermingled with voices of celebration. Somewhere inside her, a small ember of confidence flickered, urging her onward into the uncertain embrace of freedom. Ethan followed closely, sensing her need to ground herself. Once outside, the weight of the gathering lifted slightly, her senses heightened by the cool breeze that kissed her skin. For a moment, she was only aware of the rustling leaves and the faint sound of laughter. "Why do you want to do this, Claire?" he questioned softly, his presence enveloping her like a protective shield. "I see the change in you, but it seems overwhelming." Claire inhaled deeply. It wasn't entirely about the wedding or Emma, it was about her. "I've spent too much time removing myself, making room for others. I need to break free from the roles I've been cast in. This wedding, it's beautiful, yes, but it shouldn't define my existence. I can't wear my sister's shadow anymore." "Are you afraid of losing everything?" Ethan asked, the concern dancing in his eyes. "For the first time, I'm scared of not finding out who I really am." The truth whispered through her lips as she felt emboldened by her honesty. "It's not that I want to reject Emma. I want to embrace myself." Ethan considered her words, nodding with understanding, admiration glinting in his eyes. "Easier said than done. But you have a choice, Claire. Each day is a chance to define what you want your truth to be." As the words settled, Claire felt the stirrings of that new identity grow stronger. Empowerment resonated within her, carving a distinct path through the noisy chaos of life. But a shadow of reality loomed over her. What would happen when she returned to the wedding? Once the whispers of uncertainty re-entered the space she could now almost claim, before she could ponder further, a loud cheer erupted from inside. A sudden announcement, an unforeseen complication to their intimate moment. Claire's heart raced again, this time not with fear but with anticipation. "Claire!" Ethan's voice broke through her thoughts. "We should go back, see what's happening." With resolve filling her lungs, Claire nodded, but the fear returned. She could step back into the fray, but would she also step back into the shadows? Clarity beckoned, but doubt screamed louder. As they moved towards the entrance, Claire found herself wrestling with more than just external voices. An internal battle shaped her much-needed resolve. Would this moment ripple into the future she yearned for, or drown in a familiar cycle of passivity? The doors swung open, revealing the vibrant scene which had taken a turn. What lay ahead would not just test her newfound clarity, but challenge her to assert it, if she were ready to embrace the spotlight that had always felt foreign. And as they re-entered, murmurs filled the space with urgency, hinting that not just Claire's identity but her fate might hinge on the chaos they were about to walk into. Would it propel her forward, or push her back into old confines? The answers waited just out of reach, igniting a fresh wave of uncertainty that threatened to pull her under once again. As Claire stepped back into the wedding hall, the air felt thick with anticipation. The room was a kaleidoscope of colors and emotions, a whirlwind of laughter and chatter punctuated by the clinking of glasses and the rhythmic strains of jubilant music. Yet, amidst the festive atmosphere, Claire could feel her heart constricting, a tight band of tension building in her chest. The warmth of the moment was inviting, while simultaneously reminding her of her own insecurities. Ethan's presence beside her was comforting, but the moment felt fragile. She had stepped outside to claim her autonomy, but as figures danced and buoyant voices filled the air, uncertainty crept back in. Every laughter seemed to echo her fears, each cheer a reminder of expectations she hadn't chosen. "What do you think it is?" Ethan's whisper nudged her from her spiraling thoughts. He motioned toward the small crowd gathered around the dance floor, their voices rising excitedly. Claire squinted against the brightness, trying to uncover the source of their enthusiasm. Just then, a familiar face caught her eye. Emma, radiant in her wedding gown, stood at the center of attention, beaming like the sun. The truth struck her like a jolt. The moment was for her sister, not for Claire. For all the tall tales she spun in her mind of stepping into her own light, her sister still dazzled effortlessly, eclipsing Claire's resolve with the sheer brilliance of her happiness. Yet beneath the surface of envy, a flicker of determination reignited within Claire. I can't be lost in this, she thought, grappling for the confidence she had just claimed outside. This is more than just a wedding. It's an invitation to show who I can become. With renewed purpose, she pushed through the crowd, her path winding toward Emma and the heart of the celebration. Claire's pulse quickened, anticipation mingling with trepidation. When she reached the edge of the dance floor, something unusual caught her breath. A man stood beside Emma, a thick envelope in his hands, an expression of delight illuminating his features. His presence felt magnetic, an energy that drew the eyes of everyone in the vicinity. Ladies and gentlemen, announced the man, echoing across the hall, I have the honor of introducing the best surprise of the night. We have a special guest, someone who has brought something wonderful for our couple. A series of gasps flickered through the crowd. In a heartbeat, Claire recognized him. It was Asher Bennett, a billionaire known for his philanthropy and business acumen. Whispers of admiration rippled among the guests as they exchanged excited glances. Those around her began to shift subtly. Admiration morphed into curiosity, and Claire realized the gravity of the moment. This wasn't just another set piece in a grand wedding. This was a chance at opportunity, a dazzling opportunity to engage, to express her own desires amidst the backdrop of Emma's fairy tale. Yet, beneath the spontaneous thrill, her mind raced frantically. She wasn't ready to step fully into the spotlight. What if she faltered? What if her voice cracked? But this was more profound than her fears. This was a deliberate moment that could define her not just as Emma's sister but as Claire, the woman she wanted to be. Ethan's gaze landed on her again, a subtle nod offering assurance. A small gesture, but it illuminated the path ahead. Suddenly, Claire's heart thrummed with a daring rhythm. The idea of blending her personal growth with the unfolding story around her ignited a resolve stronger than fear. Asher began to speak again, unveiling mystery and excitement, invoking the dreams of those gathered. She could almost sense the moment where she would need to make a choice, to plunge into the new experiences forming around her, or to remain as a spectator, retreating from the potential that shimmered so close. Just remember, every choice has its consequence, Claire whispered to herself, the weight of her realization heavy but empowering. Now was her moment to decide. Would she enter the fray, risk stepping out from behind Emma's shadow as the music pulsed and laughter soared? Or would she find comfort in the periphery once more, watching life unfold without her? With the energy in the room electrifying her senses, she took a breath, straightened her shoulders, and stepped forward into the gathering storm of fate. And as she did, the very air seemed to change, shifting with the promise of possibilities and the thrill of unknown futures. What awaited her, acceptance or challenge, remained to be seen. But the choice lay firmly in her hands, and she could feel the embers of her identity still glowing, eager to ignite. As the revelry swirled around her, Claire braced herself for the moment that would shape her destiny. Aware that with every heartbeat she was not just becoming, she was finally stepping into the narrative she wanted to tell. A laugh drew her attention, breaking through the tumult, and Claire realized the dance of life was about to take on a very unexpected turn. Would the arrival of Asher change everything, or was the true revelation yet to come? As Claire moved closer to the dance floor, her heart raced, fueled by uncertainty and resolve. The warmth of the gathering enveloped her, pushing her to confront the mix of emotions swirling within. This was not simply her sister's moment. It was a chance for Claire to redefine her own narrative. Asher's voice carried across the room, a confident timbre that resonated with purpose. In life, we all encounter moments that challenge us, moments where the paths diverge and the decisions we make can lead us to unexpected destinations. With each word, Claire's doubts whispered in the back of her mind. What if this is not your path? What if you falter? But there was something magnetic in his presence, something that made her question the narrative she had long accepted. The role of the shadowed sister always behind the brilliance of Emma. Stepping closer, she could see the excitement reflected in the eyes of the guests. They hung on Asher's every word, rapt with admiration and interest. Claire felt the stirrings of ambition in her chest again, urging her forward, compelling her to recognize that she held the pen to her own story. It was time to script her own entry into this whirlwind of lives, however small it may seem. Tonight, we celebrate not just love, but the power of choices. Asher continued, his gaze sweeping across the crowd, landing on Claire for just a moment. Every person here is a part of a larger story, one that begins with their choices and the courage to embrace unexpected opportunities. In that fleeting glance, something ignited within her. Was he speaking directly to her? Did he see in her what lay beneath the surface? The invisible transition, deciding to step forward, became a tangible force. She didn't have a plan. She merely felt a pulsing need to engage. Gathering her breath, she smoothed the front of her dress, the fabric suddenly feeling like armor. This was not merely a wedding. It was a convergence of possibilities. She sidled up to Ethan, who offered her an encouraging smile, his gentle presence anchoring her resolve. "Do you think I should go and talk to him?" she murmured, the words barely an echo of the thunder in her chest. "Absolutely," he replied, his encouragement rooted in his understanding of her journey. "Don't let fear hold you back, Claire. You've shown you're ready for this." Heart racing, she decided in that moment to embrace the uncertainty. This was her opportunity to break free from the shadow's grip. Maeve, the girl who cowered in delightful moments, had to step aside and let Claire rise. With each step toward Asher, the revelry around her dimmed into a mere backdrop, her focus sharpening on what lay ahead. "Mr. Bennett," Claire began, the formality surprising even herself. The room seemed to ice over as eyes turned to them, a thrill rippling through the crowd. "I wanted to thank you for bringing such joy to the evening." Asher's deep-set eyes sparkled, an unguarded warmth drawing her in like gravity. "The joy is all in moments like this, where stories weave and intertwine. And who might you be?" "I'm Claire," she said, feeling the weight of her identity shift at his gaze. "Well, Claire," he replied with a smile, "what stories are you weaving tonight?" In that instant she felt the anticipation shift, a deeper invitation lingering in the air. This wasn't merely a conversation. This was the realm of possibility opening before her, asking her where she truly wished to take it. Caught in between paths yet again, Claire knew she could either reveal her own ambitions or let the moment fizzle. Her mind raced. Asher Bennett. He was not only the guest of honor but a man whose world brimmed with opportunities. What if this connection offered more than just casual conversation? What if it opened doors to her dreams, prospects she had only whispered about in the comforts of her own solitude? A sense of urgency unfurled within her as she contemplated the weight of her choice. Could she risk exposing her true aspirations, or would she retreat back into the safer realm of anonymity? Emboldened, the words formed as an expression of her evolving self. "I have always envied those who pursue their dreams unafraid. I'm trying to understand how to do that myself," she confessed, her voice trembling just slightly. "It feels daunting against those I admire." Asher's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Was he contemplating her words, or was there a deeper resonance? "Claire, I think it's time to challenge those insecurities. The world doesn't see you as an extension of others, but as your own person with unique strengths," he replied, the conviction in his voice igniting something dormant in her. Just as she was beginning to breathe into her newfound confidence, laughter from Emma erupted across the room, breaking the spell. But this wasn't the end. It was a spark, and now she needed to fan the flames of this moment. What if this was the catalyst? With her heart pulsing in her throat, Claire recognized the door was ajar. All she had to do was muster the courage to step through it. And as she stood in the thrumming atmosphere, she was aware that the next choice she made could potentiate a transformation that would echo through her life. Would she stride forward unwavering, or would she lose herself once again to the comfort of the sidelines? The air was thick with the promise of potential, and the question lingered, unyielding, as the night deepened around her. With every tick of the clock, Claire felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her, urging her to act. Her mind, previously a flurry of uncertainty and self-doubt, began to stabilize, and a sense of purpose took root. The warmth of Asher Bennett's words still hung heavy in the air around them, and she sensed an opportunity hovering just out of reach. "Claire," Asher repeated, his tone inviting her to unearth the layers she had so carefully smothered. The sharp edge of her vulnerability and the thrill of potential collided inside her. This was not just small talk. It was an arena for her to assert her identity. "I'm drawn to the world of writing, specifically screenwriting," she said, the words spilling out with a newfound assertiveness she hadn't anticipated. They felt like an unguarded proclamation, a glimpse into her hidden aspirations. "I want to tell stories that matter, that resonate. But how does one begin?" Asher leaned in, listening intently, his attention unbroken. "Storytelling is a vital skill. It shapes perceptions. What barriers do you face?" "I often feel overshadowed. My sister, she's the one everyone admires. I've lived in her light for so long," Claire admitted, surprise flooding her at how easy it was to reveal these thoughts. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm destined to remain a reflection instead of becoming my own source of light." He thoughtfully regarded her before offering a response that struck deep. "Every shadow is defined by its object. It's time you shine." His words felt like gifted hope, granting her permission to embrace her ambitions. But something shifted in the atmosphere. A sense of urgency coursed through her veins. What was the next step? How could this conversation translate into action? With determination pooling in her chest, Claire realized she had to push this forward. "Can you help me understand how I can break into this world? Perhaps mentorship or guidance?" Asher paused, his expression shifting from a casual interest to something more substantial, as if weighing the implications of her request. He searched her eyes, and for a moment she held her breath, waiting for an answer that could define the trajectory of her aspirations. "Let's meet for coffee sometime," he finally offered, his voice steady and warm. "I can guide you and share my experiences. The first step is often the hardest, but it sets everything in motion." Her heart raced, excitement bursting through her uncertainty. "Really?" The word was barely more than a breath. The prospect of mentorship from someone like him felt surreal yet tantalizingly achievable. A grin replaced the seriousness of Asher's expression. "Absolutely. I wasn't always a successful producer. I faced my own fears. The question is, are you willing to put in the work?" She nodded, resolution blossoming inside her. "I am. I want to write. I want to tell those stories." They exchanged contact information, and as she stepped back, the weight of her identity felt less burdensome. An exhilarating wave surged through her, igniting promise and ambition within. She had taken a leap, and now her choice felt robust. This moment would mark the beginning of her journey towards becoming a storyteller. But as she turned to join the gathered guests, Emma's laughter rang out again, piercing the veil of her triumph. It reminded her of how she had so often been relegated to the background, and it struck a note of apprehension. Could Claire sustain her courage amid familiarity that sought to pull her back? The night had opened a door, but she could feel the tension of her fate hanging in the air like a teetering scale, each moment now holding weight. What would she choose when thrust against the gravitational pull of expectation? As unless the echoes of Emma's triumph shifted her focus, she found herself standing on the precipice of change, aware that she must continue to leap if she hoped to evolve beyond the shadow of her sister. Facing this newfound challenge, Claire felt both overwhelmed and exhilarated. The next few days would test her resolve, and she wondered if she had the stamina to endure the conflicts that would inevitably arise. The stakes were now undeniably high. As she turned, the dance floor and laughter faded into a challenge. She must become the architect of her own aspirations, or else risk letting them slip back into the void of wishes unfulfilled. The time had come to forge ahead as the moments dwindled. Would Claire's confrontation with the familiar propel her into the embrace of her ambitions, or would she falter when faced with the very forces that had once defined her? The answer loomed in the horizon, and she could do nothing but seek it out. Claire awoke the next morning to sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains, illuminating the room with a soft glow that felt almost symbolic of her newfound resolve. As she lay in bed, her mind buzzed with thoughts of her conversation with Asher. Mentorship, what a concept. It was a lifeline that tantalized her with hope, yet the fear of inadequacy crept back. Would she measure up to his expectations? As she pushed those fears aside, she revolved the possibilities in her mind, ideas for screenplays, character arcs, themes that resonated with her deeply. After a quick shower and a modest breakfast, Claire settled at her kitchen table, armed with a notepad and pens, her heart racing in anticipation. She felt a burning need to draft her thoughts, to breathe life into the nebulous concepts swirling through her mind. Each word she wrote felt like a testament to her commitment, an affirmation that she was stepping into her own light. But as the morning progressed, a nagging voice in the back of her mind reminded her of Emma and their past. Claire tried to focus on her writing, but her thoughts drifted to her sister's seemingly effortless success. Would Emma notice the shift in her? Would she mock Claire's attempts at writing, or worse, would she overshadow her once again? Questions formed a chaotic storm within her. Determined to confront her doubts, she stood up and paced around her small living space. The clutter, a collection of books on writing and filmmaking, captured her attention. As she picked up one of the books and flipped through the pages, a quote struck her. "Your voice is unique. Own it." A spark ignited. What if she infused her struggles and experiences into her writing? Stories wouldn't just be about superficial glories. They should convey the vulnerability of the human experience. With renewed focus, she returned to the kitchen table and began free-writing, letting the words pour forth without judgment. The topic shifted from vague aspirations to more personal reflections. What were her memories of feeling lost and overshadowed? In what ways could she transform those experiences into powerful narratives? As her pen scratched against the paper, she could hear Asher's encouraging tones, reinforcing her belief in her abilities. Encouragement turned to thoughtfulness as memories of Emma loomed larger. The idea of a confrontation stirred within Claire. If she were to step into her identity as a writer, she had to do more than just write. She had to be willing to face the chapters of her life that revolved around her sister. Feeling a growing resolve, Claire took a deep breath and grabbed her phone. It trembled slightly in her hand as she selected Emma's number. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Should she reach out to challenge the narrative they shared? Or would it open the door for further comparison? Before she could overthink it, she dialed. The phone rang, and Claire's heart raced with each tone, uncertainty mingling with determination. When Emma answered with that all-too-familiar cheerfulness, Claire felt her throat tighten. "Hey, it's me," Claire said, forcing calm into her voice. "Can we meet up? I need to talk about something important." "Of course. How about lunch tomorrow?" Emma responded, not sensing the tension that clung to Claire's words. "Lunch sounds great," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. After they hung up, Claire stepped back, absorbing the weight of her decision. Confronting Emma was perhaps the biggest risk she had taken yet, one that threatened to upheave the dynamics of their sisterhood. But this was about more than her sister. It was about Claire stepping into her own narrative, crafting a story that she could own. Yet, as she prepared to continue her writing, an unsettling wave of anxiety washed over her. What if this confrontation didn't go as planned? What if it only deepened the shadows? The potential conflict and emotional upheaval loomed ahead of her, a tangible barrier she would soon have to navigate. Would she emerge stronger, or would the familiar ties drag her back into the shadows of self-doubt? Tomorrow's lunch could be the moment that defines her journey. The challenge ahead awaited her like an unopened door, and Claire was unprepared for what lay beyond it. The day of the lunch meeting dawned, bright and laden with anticipation. Claire's heart raced as she prepared, every element of her outfit signaling the significance of this moment, an unspoken declaration that today she would express her truth. The tremors of fear danced beneath her resolve, yet a fiery determination flickered within. She had come too far to be held back by past shadows. At the restaurant, Claire sat at a window table, tracing the rim of her glass with her fingertip, the bustling atmosphere echoing the magnitude of her anticipation. She wanted to be authentic, to bring her voice unapologetically to the forefront. Emma arrived, radiating her usual vivacity, the glow of triumph surrounding her. "Claire." Emma's smile illuminated the room, and the warmth of their sisterly bond momentarily enveloped Claire in familiarity. "You look lovely." "Thanks," Claire replied, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. After they ordered, Emma launched into a discussion about wedding preparations and all the omens of a fairy tale beginning. As her sister's words flowed effortlessly, Claire's mind became a battleground, a mix of admiration and long-held frustration. "Emma," she finally interjected, giving herself a moment to wrestle with the anxiety threatening to rob her of this opportunity. "I need to talk about what's been going on with me." Emma paused, curiosity knitting her brows together. "Okay, what is it?" Claire took a deep breath, summoning the courage she had harnessed all day. "I've been feeling lost, Emma. It's hard to explain. I guess I often feel like I'm in your shadow, and while I love you and support you, I want to be seen for who I truly am, too." A silence enveloped the table, the conversations around them fading into a backdrop. Emma's expression morphed from surprise to concern, as if Claire had just uttered a secret they had both known, but avoided addressing. "I don't want to compete with you," Claire pressed on. "I've been afraid to pursue my dreams because I didn't want to take away from yours, but I'm tired of holding back. I've started writing." Emma's eyes widened, a flicker of realization unfolding within. "Writing, Claire? Why didn't you tell me? I was scared. Scared of being dismissed or overshadowed. But I've realized that if I don't own this part of me, I'll lose myself completely." The gravity of her confession settled between them, both hopeful and daunting. "I never intended to overshadow you," Emma replied, her tone earnest. "I saw your support as you being content. I didn't realize it trapped you. Claire, you deserve your light. But what do you want to write?" Claire felt a rush of relief at the acceptance in Emma's voice, but the next step wasn't easy. "I want to write stories that resonate, convey what it's like to feel out of place, stories that echo our experiences, our struggles." She met her sister's gaze, allowing sincerity to anchor her words. "I need you to know I'm stepping out of your shadow, not to abandon you, but to share my truth." Emma was quiet for a moment, and Claire felt a mix of worry and hope. Finally, her sister smiled softly. "Then I'll support you however I can. I didn't realize how heavy your silence was. I thought you were fine. But I want to cheer for you just as much as I would for myself." Claire exhaled, feeling the pressure diffuse like mist in the sun. "I'll need your help, though. It's a daunting path." "I'm here for you. And Claire," Emma added, shifting slightly, "just remember my journey doesn't take away from yours. We can both succeed without it being a competition." The sense of liberation wrapping around Claire felt like a cloak of confidence. Conversations floated around them, but the two sisters crafted a new narrative amidst the noise. After the meal, they ambled outside, the sunlight casting a golden hue over the sidewalk. The newfound understanding between them felt palpable, light, and optimistic. With Emma's support, Claire found herself buoyed, each step forward signaling not just acceptance of her identity, but mutual respect in their relationship. Later, as Claire sat down to write, the words flowed effortlessly. The story of two sisters, intertwined yet distinct. With every stroke of her pen, she not only outlined the narrative she craved, but also felt the comforting embrace of her own agency solidify in her heart. As the days passed, Claire's connection with Asher blossomed into mentorship. He guided her through her aspirations, solidifying her understanding of narrative structure and character development. The seeds of confidence continued to bloom as she melded her personal journey into her craft. Conversations with Emma became less about rivalry and more about sisterhood, a supportive partnership that encouraged both their unique stories. Claire had transformed. She was not the same girl who had watched from the sidelines. She was a storyteller. One afternoon, as she typed fervently on her laptop, Claire paused, a sense of accomplishment swelling within her. A sense of clarity washed over her. She had finally found her voice. The cycle of defeat had been broken. She had stepped into her own narrative, and there was no looking back. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a tapestry of gold and purple across the sky, Claire looked beyond the window, her heart swelling with ambition and excitement. In the heart of her small apartment, etched in creativity and perseverance, Claire realized she was ready. The future awaited, vibrant and open, inviting her to tell her story and to welcome all the chapters yet unwritten. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.